You are looking at the best handcuff board you're going to find in the fantasy football industry. No one's attacking the handcuff conversation like your boy Smitty, and you might find some standalone guys ranking really low, and you ask the simple question of, hey, Smitty, I really like Kendre Miller. Why is he not higher on the list? Because this is about handcuff duos. Kendre Miller is kind of a standalone breakout sleeper candidate that you draft, by himself and say, forget Kamara, I don't need him. Same thing with Spears and Vidal. I don't want really anything to do with the RBs like Kamara, Pollard, and the LAC running backs. I kind of do like Rashad White. Of course, I like Walker. As we go up the board, I'm starting to like the starting running back more. So you can see this cuffing board is more about the combo, the best combo in fantasy. What does the duo guarantee me in fantasy? That is what this cuff board is about. And you'll find no better one in the industry. The Fantasy Football Show begins right now. Kyren and Corum are by far and away the best handcuff in fantasy football, period. There's no argument about it. This guarantees you not top 5 running back numbers, top 1 to 5 running back numbers because McVay, because of the Rams system, because of what you saw and witnessed last year when Kyren Williams scored 15 touchdowns in 12 games. Kyren Williams is going to the moon, and I don't care what anybody says about him. Oh, he's injury prone. He's too small. He's banged up. He's already back at practice. Everybody's saying, oh, Smitty, he's going to lose his job. Look at him. Corum's going to take his job. I don't think so. Look right here, right in front of your face. He's back. Kyren's back, and he's doing it live.
He's Kyren. He's 7 feet tall.
And everybody out there doubting this kid, he's too small, he's going to get hurt.
He's Kyren. He can take frowns and turn them upside down with his touchdowns.
He could arguably be. This doesn't even feel bold right now. I don't even feel like I should get a cookie or a pat on the back at the end of the year, but I will get one. Because this sounds bold to people for some dumb reason. Because he's going to round 3 right now. Some people fading him to mid-round 3, trying to send him into round 4. So this sounds bold. But Kyren Williams could arguably be one of my favorite touchdown leaders at the end of the season and potentially one of the top 1, 2, or 3 overall running backs contending for the rushing title. On the ground between the tackles, this man could be the number 1 running back in the National Football League. I think Bijan probably beats him out, but it's going to be a total race to the finish. Who's better? Is it Kyren? Is it Bijan? Breece Hall and Gibbs do so much work in the receiving game, as does Bijan, although they're talking a lot about making Bijan more of an RB this year than a dual threat. Not that they won't throw to him, but just saying that, yeah, Bijan and Kyren, in my opinion, and Christian McCaffrey, as long as he stays healthy, will be the 3 backs contending for the rushing title. Barkley's going to say, excuse me, you're leaving me out of this. Barkley's in the mix too, don't worry. Some say Jacobs. There's a lot of players that can contend. Henry, no, more so touchdowns for Henry. I think he's more around 1,000 yards rushing this year, but good God, this guy's in the running. He had 1144 and 12 touchdowns in 12 games. He ran for 12 touchdowns in 12 games. His 17-game pace was 16-20, 21 total touchdowns, which would have been running back 2 behind only Christian McCaffrey and barely behind him. This man is going to the moon. Now, back on point. Smitty, I just don't. Ziggy, show me the front door. Oh, it's just Miss Smitty taking the trash out. Ziggy off. I think I was saying something like, McVay loves Kyren. McVay loves Kyren. And you can argue with me if you want. This whole notion that, Kyren's going to get hurt. Because he runs like Pacheco. He runs really hard. And there's a reason he's number 1 on the cuff board. Because I acknowledge that. If I had no fear over him getting hurt, he wouldn't rank number 1. I literally come to this board every single day on a live stream, at least once a day on a live stream. We talk about how he's the bona fide number 1 overall running back if cuffed to Corum. We talk about how everyone's going to probably circle back if Kyren misses 2 or 3 games and Corum steps in and does an amazing job. People are going to think they have something. Hey, Smitty, no, you didn't. I told you. Let's go, mashed potatoes! It's right in front of your face every single day. There is no more important handcuff, and you're almost in a position where you should be ashamed of yourself. Your mother's ashamed of you. I'm ashamed of you. Everyone in here is ashamed of you if you draft Kyren Williams and you wait a little too long and somebody snipes Corum from you and you go, oh, I didn't know he'd do it. Well, good for you. Now you don't have the cuff. Now you don't have the combo. You need to make sure you responsibly reach to a territory where you can guarantee that you have the cuff that will guarantee you top 5 running back numbers in a Sean McVay system that is going to have that running back. And I'm not talking about both of them. He doesn't use 2 running backs. He's certainly going to use Corum a little bit to help offset some of the work that Kyren's got to do. He can't be on the field 95% of the time like he was last year. That doesn't mean that McVay's using 2 running backs. It means he's smartly trying to give Kyren a little bit of a breather in between, running 22 times in a game. So Kyren Williams, Corum, we want that divide to happen, but even if we just say, hey, we're getting 1 start each week with one, we can't use both of them. You're going to get maybe 15 to 17 rushing. No, it's 15 to 17 total touchdowns, 12 plus rushing touchdowns from 17 starts, not using them at the same time. That's the definition of a must cuff, best cuff in fantasy, is that you're not acting like you're going to use 2 of them or ever use the both of them at the same time. This combination guarantees you glory. And I don't know why people don't see it. I don't know why we're looking at a draft board and we're saying to ourselves, like, this is where you're getting Kyren every single time. Appreciate you dropping that super chat earlier, Amon. Here's where we're getting Kyren every single time now. We're getting him in this mid 3 to bottom 3, and at some point it wouldn't shock me at all if Kyren in many circles drops to this top around 4. And I just don't know what I'm going to do at that point. I don't know that I'm going to be able to contain myself, because you're telling me I never thought in my wildest dreams in January, in February, March, we would be talking about a team that looked a little bit like this roster construction right here. Let's just make Smitty happy right now and just talk about this. Let's say you get lamb chops right here. Okay, so lamb right here. Let's say in round 2 you get, I mean, you could literally go Barkley here in hopes that I'm going to get some receivers all, and then all of a sudden you see Achane sitting here, and I don't know which one, Achane or Kyren's going to fall. We'll get to Achane in a second. Achane or Kyren's going to fall to round 4, and which one's going to stand 3, or do they both fall in 4? And if they do, you're still going to reach for one of them in 3 to grab both of them. So you get Achane here in round 4. You get Kyren someday. I'm not saying this is now, but it seems like we're maybe going that way. And on underdog, you're going to get Mahomes at 5.1. You're not going to get him in the mid 5th round. And in your grandma leagues, in your Uncle Buck leagues, you're not going to find him here. You'll find quarterbacks going a lot earlier in those leagues. So it just depends on if we're talking best ball. But on best ball, Mahomes has a 5.1 ADP. But you could get Stroud here. Okay, you could get AR5. AR5 seems to be falling with the recent, his shoulder was sore the other day. We're seeing AR5 definitely fall right now in that round 5 territory. Look, I've only drafted 1 wide receiver here. I went robust RB, and I didn't even take an RB in round 1. I went Barkley, Achane, Kyren. Now, let's just say, okay, we want to go lamb chops, and somehow, some way, London falls. He goes high in some leagues. He goes low in others. Let's say MHJ falls on ESPN. MHJ falls to the top of round 3 or late round 2. On underdog, he goes at the 2-3 or the 1-2 turn at 11, 10, 12, 13. Some people call that crazy. I don't. But let's just say you go lamb, MHJ, wide receiver, robust WR, and then you go Achane, Kyren, AR5. I mean, I'm making steak dinner out of ground beef right here. I'm making absolute gourmet meals right here out of something I never thought. The ingredients were never here in January and February and March, and I'm smashing. You're smashing. We're all smashing. Mashed potato in 2024. It's happening. It's happening. Okay, let's go back. If anybody missed that episode right here, make sure you go watch this. Stay away from Keenan Allen. He's one of the
off he goes to the planet known as Uranus.
One of the Uranus men. Stay away from all of those Uranus planet men. You don't want to go near him in 2024. Smash. And while we're on it, we'll go back to Benson and Connor. We go down to the 3 spot, and we just say, similar thinking here, okay? I don't need to rehash any of what I just said because it all still applies. But what I will say is that Achane has the capability of being the RB 1 through 5. I think it's safer to be 3 to 7, 3 to 6, whereas Kyren's got the running back 1 to 5 and Achane's at 3 to 6. But this guy he's the number 1 running back in the National Football League in yards per carry. He's the most elusive running back, elusive rating wise, in the National Football League. He's the most elusive, the metrics prove it, the most elusive running back in the National Football League. DeVon Achane, the number 1 and the best yards per carry. And as he gets more carries, he qualifies for a bigger bucket of player to discuss who's the leading yards per carry leader in the National Football League historically. He's number 1, but he hasn't had enough carries that you gotta dial back down the search results to as many carries as he's received, because you can't say 500 carries who's the number 1 running back in the league historically in yards per carry. He averages 7.8 yards per carry. This guy's an absolute monster. He's probably the most exciting running back. Him and Gibbs are the most exciting running backs in the National Football League. It's almost not even close when you really think about it. And so what I say, first in elusive rating. His breakaway percentage was number 1 in the National Football League last year. He's the most elusive, has the ability to break away, number 1 in the league, better than any running back in the National Football League, and he's got the number 1 yards per carry, not only in the league now, but historically. In the National Football League historical data, this is quite arguably the most exciting running back we've ever seen touch turf or grass in the NFL. And the beauty part here, the beautiful part about this situation is you can cuff Wright and Mostert if you want. And I know it seems like, how do you do this, Smitty? First of all, if you're in a dynasty league, or you got taxi squads or whatever the hell your roster construction looks like, and you have the ability to do it, then stop crying about it. If you have a small bench, I get it, you can't. So it's just a difference between different bench sizes. But man, you can cuff all 3. You're guaranteed as much of a security blanket as this duo here. I would say if you're getting all 3 and your roster construction allows you to have all 3 without hampering your roster construction, this moves to 2 and is the second best cuffing situation. The reason that this is here is because I feel like the Benson / Connor, more so than the Connor / Benson side of this, is top 7 running back material right here in Arizona. I love this duo. This is just one of those situations where you can cuff it. You can see these arrows go either direction. Wright is a cuff for Achane owners. Wright is a cuff for Mostert owners. If Mostert goes down, Wright's going up in value, right? Makes sense. If Achane goes down, Wright's going up in value. It makes sense, right? Mostert stays in, but Wright goes in, and they kind of divide up maybe what Achane's been doing. Who knows who takes over that more Deebo Samuel role, which Achane has. The architect of the Deebo Samuel wide back is Miami Mike McDaniel in Miami. He created that wide back role in a different version, a variant of an RB in Achane. So when people say, oh, this worries me, Wright's on the roster, Smitty, I'm so petrified about Wright. Wright's going to take away everything, right? Right? Is Wright taking it away, right? No, right? Wrong. The answer to that is not right. It's wrong. Wright is a cuff. Wright is the ultimate cuff to either one, but the ultimate cuff because Mostert is dirt cheap right now. I don't know why he's not going a little higher. I know he's going to get hurt. Everybody knows that, but he's going so late. You can get all 3. And it doesn't impede upon your build because these guys are like literally just miles down the ADP board. I've touched on this already. I do think Connor and Benson are going to drop absolute fire together. And I don't think you need to use both of them. It's one of those things where you're using one of Corum and Kyren, you're using one of Benson or Connor. Same thing goes here, although Alen might have some touchdown vulturing capability, and maybe like during a bye week you could start both, or if you had a standalone Braelon Allen share, you could plug him in and maybe get a touchdown. But this is an important cuff. Breece Hall is the number 2 running back from last year. Absolutely exploded, and he did so without any sort of, like, really almost virtually no goal line work. And he was running back 2. So he makes his living pass catching. He makes his living breakaway runs. We'd love to see him more utilized more in the goal line area, but it doesn't mean he's incapable of being a top 1 to 5 running back, even if Braelon Allen's stealing 5-6 touchdowns on the year. So the cuff is important because if Hall went down, Braelon Allen would be utilized heavily and be very, very good. He would be as good as ranking 4 on this board. The duo is very important, as is the handcuff to Christian McCaffrey. But who's the cuff? Right now, news broke the other day, and I might even have that news right here on screen, capable of being dragged over. Is this it right here? I don't know. That's it. Oh, look at that. Look at that beauty right there. Jalen Hurts. 95% of his offense has changed, but that's not a negative. I've already talked about that on my show. Go watch the video on that. People are freaking out about it, and it just makes him more of a value. People just don't know. People have goggles on. It's crazy how big the goggles are for people right now in fantasy. It's insane. Here's the piece of news here. So according to The Athletic, Mitchell is the clear number 2 running back behind Christian McCaffrey. So you could look at this kind of like the Achane Mostert Wright situation if your roster was big, but if you can only have one cuff to go with McCaffrey, you've got a tough decision to make. It's not as clear cut as, he's the clear number 2. I'll just take him. That's one way to look at it. And there's a chance that McCaffrey needs that relief in week 3. And therefore, you're probably going to get that usage, right? What if McCaffrey plays all year healthy and breaks down weeks 10, 11, 12, 13? You've got to think, who is going to be the backup when the time comes? So preemptively, you may be going after Guerendo. If I had to choose, Mitchell ain't staying healthy. This guy's the long-term replacement. Mitchell's on his last year of his deal. They're not going to re-up Mitchell. Ziggy, what is Eli Mitchell's contract?
From Spotrac.com. In 2023, Mitchell will earn a base salary of $940,000 while carrying a cap hit of $985,892 and a dead cap value of $91,784.
Thank you, Zigmeister. And then looking at the contract, he's an unrestricted free agent. And I don't think in 2025, and I don't think the Niners have any plans of giving either Mason or Mitchell a new contract. They're re-upping Christian McCaffrey. They've got potentially Debo to even work on. They got Ayuk to botch, and then Brock Purdy coming up. There's no room for that. So you got to ask yourself, in week 10, do they want Guerendo in his role? By then, do they want Guerendo verse so that they walk into not only the playoffs if something happens, but in 2025, do they want to have to teach Guerendo everything and get him up to speed, or do they want to have it cycled out and replaced? Think about what the Niners do. Drafted Ricky Pearsall in the first round. They're all about getting the soldiers lined up and the pieces lined up on the board and getting them ready to go and swapping out. And if they're going to do that, right? So I feel like Guerendo is the guy to own. It's crafty, it's bold, it's a little ballsy, but I think he's the most talented by far. He's 6'1", 220-something pounds. He's a monster. And he's really athletic, a 4.33 40, super quick. He gets in that offense, in that scheme, in Shanahan's offense, he could be an absolute force and a real big dynasty steal. Why is Bijan not higher? Because this is about the cuff. And Braelon Allen starting, or Braelon Allen and Hall, gives you more of a guarantee than Bijan and Allgeier. Allgeier, he's had good success in the past. I'm not saying he's bad, but if something, God forbid, happened to Bijan, I don't know that I'm liking Allgeier as much as if something happened to Hall, that I'm not liking Allen more, or in the case of all these other situations. So that's the way this board is shaping up. But because Bijan and Allgeier together is still an important cuff, you see him ranked high. One could argue Warren and Harris is better, but you could also argue that Harris and Warren standalone have value in a way that makes it hard to even judge that. Shipley and Barkley, very important cuff. Brown and Moss. I could almost say Brown and Moss need to move up to above Shipley and Barkley. I like Shipley, but we don't fully know what that's going to look like if something happened to Barkley. Whereas I think Brown would probably explode. Let's move that around slightly because I feel like these need to be. Yeah, I feel like these guys need to be swapped. So we'll put Barkley, we'll put Zack Moss right here. We'll put Brown right here, and Barkley and Shipley right here. And Lloyd, maybe even Lloyd, because we don't know what's going on with Shipley yet. I mean, I think he'll be the guy, but we don't fully know how he's going to look. We'll even put Lloyd above him. And as much as I want to put Charbonnet, I think I'm going to leave it like that for now. But that gives you an idea of like how my mind works and how I move this thing around like daily. Anybody that thinks they know, everybody pretends they know everything right now and they're just going to carry it into the season. I don't know what they're talking about. Like, this is how a real fantasy football analyst should be discussing it with you on the fly, digesting it, changing directions, adjusting and adapting. And I look at it now and I'm like, maybe I do need to move Charbonnet up. But this is the board. I mean, this is an important board. Gibbs and Monty can't crack it because Monty's got standalone value, and it's almost hard to even consider him a cuff on any level. You can kind of cuff him, but it's one of the more expensive running back cuff situations, so it's worth talking about, but I don't think it's worthy of this cuffing board situation. Same thing with a lot of these other guys. I think Miller and Spears and Vidal have the best standalone value. I think I'm not staying away from Rashad White, but below that Walker Sharp line right here, these are the guys that I start to get a little fearful of the actual starter. And I don't necessarily feel like the cuffing situation helps anything. So that tier is like a tier of panic in a way. This tier is still very solid. And then everybody from Bijan up, so Hall, McCaffrey, all these guys are the best cuffs in fantasy football. Hope you enjoyed this cuff board session. And you can request this at any time during my live streams, and I'll obviously reference it myself constantly throughout the year. We'll move it around as we go. The new additions from last time is Hall right here versus McCaffrey, but I still am very bold. This is kind of a bold Guerendo take that I'm trying to get out there before it ever really comes to fruition, because I want you guys to take advantage of it. Thank you. Appreciate you. I'm live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern every single Monday through Friday. I'm also live when news breaks, and we're live most midnights drafting on Underdog Fantasy. Promo code Smitty. They'll match 50% on your first deposit for a limited time here. So use the link in the description and get your, or use code Smitty and get your match 50% on that first deposit up to $250. The minimum is only $10 too, and we're drafting most midnights. You don't want to miss out on that. And don't forget to join my Patreon. I'll put that link, I'll pin it in the live chat during this premiere, and I'll also put it in the comments, and I'll also put it in the description of the video. But the Patreon is where this community lives. Before the lives, after the lives, is basically, think of it like the live chat in the live streams continuing over to a 365 24/7 chat room that has all 10 of these different chats going on constantly. And then there's exclusive content on top of that. And the first 200 people, we're getting closer and closer to getting that filled. The first 200 members will get into the 242-man league. If you have already done that, or you're about to, or you've been a part of the Patreon from the beginning, you're in, as long as you're in the first 200. And just be patient. I'll give you some details on that. It's going to take a little while. We're drafting in August. It'll be on a Saturday. We'll do a draft marathon. There'll be 11 different leagues of 22 people. I'll explain all the details later. But 11 leagues of 22 people, and the winners, and it's going to be best ball style, one and done, strategy through the roof, 22 people in each league, one copy of each player. So it's not like you can draft 2 copies of a player. It's strategic. And the winners of each of the 11 leagues advance with me, 12 people, into a 2025 official Dynasty Startup Draft of the Fantasy Football Show, the official The Fantasy Football Show Dynasty League. And we'll draft it and do the rookie draft every year live on the show. But the inaugural 2025 draft will be live on the show. Appreciate every single one of you. See you later. Again, live Monday through Friday, every single Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern, and live when big news breaks.